Podcasting from the Lone Star State in Southern California, you're listening to the Coma Podcast with Cody and Matt.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Live with Cody and Matt. It is June 18th, 2021, and we are coming to you, of course, kind of live, but not live. We'll be in the chats. I'll be chatting with you, but I'm not able to be here live during this show, so this is pre-recorded. You can still chat with us, though, so be sure and do that in the comments there on the platform. But I actually, Matt, am going to see a theater show. Live theater is back. Of course, Salem has decided to join me, so everyone say hi. Salem, say hi. But yeah, so this is a pre-recorded show, but be sure and comment because we'll be commenting.
Our seventh take because of Salem.
Salem has just decided to join in on the show. He loves doing it, apparently. If we weren't recording, we've been talking and he wasn't messing around. I start recording and he's like, okay, I want to be a part of the show. But yeah, so we'll be chatting in the chats with you. So be sure and chat with us. But I'm so happy that things are happening. Live theater is happening here in San Diego again. So
right.
I'm getting to start doing that.
Start changing our own live shows to fit around your commitments. And
yes. So I mean, that's exciting to be able to do that. Of course, just want to mention here at the top, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But episodes here are sponsored by Dr. Jake at Mobile Care D. Matt will be talking about that a little bit more later on. But Matt, how has the week been? I know it's been hot in Texas. It's been hot here in California.
I thought about honestly doing this in a tank top or shirtless because I am sweating. I mean, I'm like freaking glistening while we're on. And I just have a normal ring light and I even have it far away. And then I have my window on the left. The blinds are just partially open. And it's amazing how sunny and hot it is for how pale and white I am. It just seems like wrong.
You should be a little bit more. I've been working outside. I've been working outside because Justin was gone for those few weeks, and so I was working outside doing stuff, getting it all nice before he came back, and I got pretty tanned. And so you can see it when I'm not wearing my watch. I have this white band. And then I also have been wearing sandals a lot. And so I have sandal tan lines, which I hate. But hopefully I can get rid of those. But yeah, it's getting hot here. Actually, there's excessive heat warnings going on. And they're probably this weekend going to have alerts for people to not use electricity basically, or slow their electricity use. Just like in Texas, it's already started here as well. But yeah, hopefully we won't get too hot here, and hopefully y'all will survive there. But also, Matt, this coming weekend, or this weekend here, Sunday, it's Father's Day. So happy Father's Day, Daddy.
I swear to God, Cody, if you put that damn filter up, we're done. I will end this live.
Where I'm the baby. I don't have it available, so I can't
thank
pull it
God,
up.
Because it was just getting uncomfortable. So Cody and I were actually talking about this right before I hit record. I was like, Cody, I wish I had him at least a semi-normal backstory, because there was no way to discuss my DNA story without my whole life coming out, because it was just like, oh, I found out I have a different biological dad. Oh, that's okay. He's still your stepdad, but he was still dad to you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And he tried to correct me on the phone a few nights ago. I referred to him by his name because I was talking to somebody else on the line. And it was somebody that's a friend, a family friend, but he was there. And this is not a call I wanted to be on. This was not a voluntary call.
Yeah.
And he was like, Bert, it's dad to you. And I was like, it's not. It's barely anything, actually. It's barely, sir. Yeah, anything that I call you that isn't derogatory is just considered a courtesy from me at this point. But for most people who, either grew up with a step parent, a step relative, or learned they had a different biological parent later, they usually seem to have had a good relationship with the parents or guardians and figures in their home for it seems like round 2 usually works okay, and compared to mine at least. And so we were just talking about it, and I'm like, well, damn, because anything I tried to do to shut it down, to keep it abridged and not traumatize anybody, I was like, oh, well, you're well, not really. oh, well, at least you had them. And I'm like, well, I didn't. I went and lived with my grandparents.
Yeah.
Oh, and like every answer generated another question. I'm like, man, I really make people sorry for asking questions, and then they like feel bad. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I hope you don't need therapy over my answers, But
yeah. When you brought it up, you were asking me about my particular instance as far as a dad is concerned, and I don't talk about it a lot, or I mean, it just doesn't really come up. But
yeah,
like
and also we're all in our 30s now. I mean, it's not like it's not like, oh, college graduation and I'm 22 and I want my parents there, or soccer games. Like, we're at different stages in our life where our parental involvement in that way, those normal questions don't get asked anymore.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like my actual dad, I was telling Matt, like I talked to my stepdad and whatever, and it's great. And my parents have been married since I was like in 10th grade, my mom and my stepdad. But like my actual dad, I told Matt, like, honestly, since they got divorced, like when I was like in first grade or so, I have probably either talked to him or seen him less than 50 times, which is crazy to think of that long of span of time to not talk or even see. But yeah, and in person again, like that's probably less than 10 or 15 times, which is crazy. But like he always will call or text my sister, and it's always been like that, even before she had kids and stuff. So it wasn't even that. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's
my
not
stepdad and my sister have a good relation. Well, I don't want to say good, but it sounds more like yours. Like, they talk to each other, they call each other back. Now, that is his biological daughter. Cody, I did not tell you. So since this is on, yes, I realize this is a very public podcast, but my family doesn't like listen to this. I had a thought 3 days ago that I'm going to run by you, and girl, this is some drama. This would be incredibly, I mean, it's not actually funny, but it'd be super traumatic. So my mom, we talked about how my mom like fessed up to this whole thing. We all know, like, okay, I mean, we all knew DNA doesn't lie, but my mom did finally admit. So that was a one-time thing, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I think is interesting is I knew growing up that almost 2 years to the date, my mom had a daughter before me, and her birth date was supposed to be almost the same day as mine. But unfortunately, she had a miscarriage, and her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and she did not make it. They weren't able to like realize it in time. Mm-hmm. So it was super tragic. Obviously, this was an awful situation. 2 years later, almost to the date, but 9 months, I make it, barely. And here I am. Now, both of us were super underdeveloped for our sizes. Even her at 6 months along, when she didn't make it, she was small for that. And it didn't seem like our umbilical cords were really doing a good job for us. Mm-hmm. And we had similar characteristics, other than, I mean, I had a cleft lip and palate and she did not. So my parents were very, very poor. I mean, they're like in their 20s. They're very young at this point. They're like in their early mid 20s. So, like very much early in their marriage. And this is not, funerals are very expensive. So my stepdad, who I then, of course, we thought was my bio dad, his dad is buried in a family plot in Ohio, and they have a family plot for his family. So in not knowing what to do and in not being able to afford, he got permission from his mother, who was his parents divorced when he was like 12 or 15 or something. But his mom had say over the gravesite. So what they did was they put her casket on top of his. Like, they didn't exhume him, but like opened up his grave, set her casket on his, because it's technically his granddaughter, and had the service there because her last name is the same as his, and it was, I believe, like the first grandchild. So, and this was obviously a very tragic event, and my stepdad is his only child, so it's not like he had to contend with other siblings. Now his dad's siblings were pissed about this. This caused a huge family rift, and I think one relative other than his half-sister speak to him over this. Like, this was like the termination of most of their relationships right then. So what's interesting is my stepsister was a planned pregnancy. I was not planned. Even if Bert had been my dad, it was still not planned because they had just given up on the idea. My mom had a very difficult time getting pregnant, even when they tried to have a family and start a family, and my sister happened. And the doctor said, the chances of you getting pregnant again are like nothing because she's so tiny, and they didn't think her body. The doctor said her body wasn't going to support a pregnancy because it didn't the first time. And even without the umbilical cord issue, she was likely to have physically struggled just like I did in different ways. And I think more severely from my understanding. So I was like, now my stepdad suspects this was not a one-time event, that this was a full-on affair. And I kind of suspect the same thing. And the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, it's so interesting to me that my mom had a very difficult time getting pregnant the whole time she was married to my stepdad. And my stepsister was a very difficult pregnancy as well because she also physically struggled to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, now we do know due to DNA that my stepsister is his biological daughter. Like there is just issues there. But what are the odds? Because my mom's brothers and sisters all have children. All of them. I have lots of cousins. Like all of them had 1 to 3 or 4 children. And all of them successful. My mom was, as far as I know, the only one to have experienced this. Now, she is one of the older siblings. So all her baby siblings, half and step, are all like between 2 and 1. She has one sister 2 years older than her. That's biological. Yeah. The rest are half and step. And they're all like 3 to like 12 years younger than her. And I was like, dear Jesus, what if my older sister is actually not a half sibling? She is a biological sister. Yikes. And my niece was like, do you think your stepdad has thought of that? I'm like, well, he's on the trail because he asked me a few weeks ago when he told me everything that happened. He said, I don't think this is a one-time thing. This just doesn't seem possible. Like, yeah, we're all, because I said, how can I be your kid? Like, I don't look like you. And don't you think it's funny that you and mom tried for years to have a second child? And the doctor was like, the risk was my mom's, they thought it was going to cost her life or mine or both of us for her to have a child again. So she was not actively like, they were like, okay, well, that happens, but it's not going to. And it didn't for years. So now the universe obviously has a sense of humor. I think we've all learned that. Like, what is meant to be is going to be. And obviously, here I am. And I'm very happy for my existence. Don't get me wrong. But if my stepdad thinks of this, if that neuron fires, I have the biggest fear that he is going to go nuclear, because yikes, my sister wasn't cremated and sat there. She was buried. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so please no. And because she is buried in a family plot, that cost him almost every relationship. Now, those relationships were likely very strained even then, because my stepdad is notorious for being very problematic. But that was a big snip. And I was like, if that comes out, and I'm like, what's going to happen? I was like, well, I mean, my bio dad's not going to submit for a test. And my niece was like, honey, all he needs is your DNA, because if we're a 50% match in DNA, that means we're bio siblings, because bio siblings share high 40s, low 50s in range. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Wow. Mr. Science over here. Good thing for that science degree. You just don't think about it for yourself. Like, this is how my life really is like a circus. The closer I look at things, the more I miss. So I figure out most things by stepping back, coming back to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell Cody this thing, because I just can't even imagine.
Yeah, that would be insane. Right. If you're listening or watching and you missed a lot, and we have podcast episodes that you can check out where we talk about Matt and his DNA and
that really wild adventure.
the Jerry Springerness of it all. And there are episodes. I'll put it in the link. So if you're in the comments, you'll see it.
I did not go looking for this. I already had like a separated, strained relationship with my family. I just did a DNA test for 23andMe to do the genealogy project because my family had one, and I was like, oh, I want to start my own, and just sheer accident. But
you gotta watch out for those DNA tests.
Yeah, But something else happened today that was very funny that has nothing to do with that I meant to text you about because it happened in a Starbucks line. So again, I only eat Starbucks like once or twice a week because I behave myself and I've been trimming down. So I'm standing in line waiting for David to get done shopping and get to the front, and this lady is behind me with maybe a 6-year-old daughter, maybe. And I guess she was I didn't turn around and look, but I guess she was holding money. And she's like, honey, don't put money in your mouth. That's gross. Because obviously money is very gross. Yeah. And she's like, why? And she's like, well, honey, like lots of people touch it. And then they, if you touch that, you're touching what everyone else touched. So you put that in your mouth. That's dirty. You don't want to do that. She's like, lots of people. She's like, lots of people. She's like, even people that wipe their butt. And she's like, yeah. I had a mask on and I'm so happy because I was deceased in this line a foot away.
That is so funny. The realization.
But yeah, and all I can think is Frozen 2 with Olaf being like, water has passed through every person, at least 4 different animals.
Yes.
Because water has memory.
I wish we had that clip. That's so funny. Yeah, money is gross. That's why I really don't use cash at all anymore. Unless
we almost never carry cash. We did have to stop at a McDonald's one night because we literally had not gone grocery shopping, and because the pandemic really just throws everybody off. And even with things opening up, just things like forgetting to grocery shop because you're used to having things for a few weeks, and we were off by a day or two. So we learned that a McDonald's down the street, there's one we won't go to. It's a nightmare. But there's another one that's an equidistant the other direction. That's fine. We go there, pull in, and we have been to the gym that night, by the way. So we are hungry. And they're like, oh, sorry, cash only. I'm like, so we drive back home, grab cash, and came. Well, we had to eat. Like at this point, it is now 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we are starving. And we were just having no luck. And it was one of those things. We grabbed a 20, and it was like, well, prices have changed so much and everything. It was like, is 20 enough to get like large? Because we're getting mediums, and then it was like 16 something. And I hear David whisper like under his breath after she told me the total, and I pulled forward. He's like, she got a fucking large. Like,
oh, David.
I mean, I think we've all been there, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you got your food. Yeah, I only carry like my right. Apple Wallet now, basically. And so there's like one credit card in there, and then everything else is on my phone as Apple Wallet. So if anybody else needs me to do something, I'm going to be in trouble. It is Friday, and so we thought last week we played it. And so this week I have another cocktail, Matt. This one is a little bit colorful, and it is my prickly pear cocktail.
Are you looking for a fancy cocktail that's quick and easy to make? Then this prickly pear gin is just for you. This is one of my favorite cocktails to make because of the prickly pear syrup. I just love the taste of it. If you're able to get fresh prickly pear syrup, it's amazing. We're going to start off with a glass filled with ice. We're going to do a 1/4 ounce of that prickly pear syrup, 4 ounces of our ginger beer, and then to top it off, 1.5 ounces of gin. I'm using Empress 1908 gin. I love it because of the color, and it's going to make this cocktail beautiful. It gets that color because of pea flowers it's infused with. And then we'll top it off with a mint leaf. And there you have it, a prickly pear gin.
Yeah, I'll have to make Matt a cocktail when I finally get to see him. The one thing about that one that I made that I love, first of all, I never had used prickly pear with the gin that I had. And so it ended up being such a pretty color, like very desert-like, that's what it was supposed to be. But I love that gin. That is one of my favorite gins that I try to use in pretty much all of my cocktails because of the color. The color is amazing, and you can do so many fun things with it. I have done several cocktails, and sometimes depending on the other ingredients you use, it'll kind of like do different shades of colors or totally change into like a pink color. It's just a really, really fun gin to work with. That's kind of magical because, again, those pea flowers. And so when you add like a lemon juice or something, the acidity changes the colors. So it's like a color changing drink. Next week.
Which everybody loves. I loved that.
Yeah, it tastes delicious. They have not sponsored me, sadly. They sponsored my friend. And she got 2 bottles of it and like $175. And I'm like, seriously?
Well,
Seriously.
So,
and she used my recipe. Secret messages. If you ever wanted to be like a fly on the wall and see what me and Matt talk about,
you're just dying to know.
I think we're going to start showing you with some secret messages. But so this is this is some of the stuff that we have sent each other. So this week there's no text messages, only photos that we've sent each other. So Matt sent me this one.
Oh God.
When your sins are just too many, communion toast crunch.
You know, I sent this to my adult niece and she was like, I can taste this photo.
So Matt, I think I've told you this before. When I worked at a church and
me too.
There was we didn't have those wafers. You know, these wafers were not what we had. We had small, like little tiny squares.
Did you have the square? Oh yeah.
Yeah, tiny. Like it's like 1 bite, not even a bite really.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were stored in a closet.
Jesuses.
Yes, and I was hungry one day and I had nothing to eat and I needed to finish doing some stuff. So I went and got like a little cup full of those and was eating them. You know, they're basically crackers, but really like almost a stale-ish, like there's not much flavor to them. But let me tell you,
well, you
they
just
were
described
good.
so much Christianity like in one sentence.
They were tasty. So yeah, that was. I would not necessarily recommend it because you can get better tasting crackers than that. But if you're in a crunch,
like, are you trying to roast religion? Because you're doing a fantastic job.
If you're in a crunch, another one Matt sent me was.
I am sweating so hard.
This one. Dan Crenshaw, summer of 1776. That's a Facebook post.
Really unfortunate placement. I did not Photoshop this. This was like his post.
Like, did no one see this? It's supposed to be Dan's first something. Dan's first annual, maybe? I don't even know what it's supposed to actually be, but all you see is Dan's fist anal. Dan Crenshaw, everybody. Texas. So that Matt was just like sending me those and I was just dying laughing. I love the communion toast crunch though, because like the name works. It just
it really
everything
does just fit right in.
Everything together works. So I sent Matt this one. I came across this one. This was the kitty influencer, as Matt told me. I just sent Matt the photo and he was like, kitty influencer.
That's
now,
exactly what it reminded me of. It's like she's a kitty influencer.
Yeah, look at the cat, everybody. It's going to zoom in a second. Someone has made the cat have lipstick. Why? And eyelashes. I missed the eyelashes. Why is that needed? You didn't need to do that. But I guess you wanted to make the kitty pretty. Everybody wants a pretty kitty, right, Matt?
Everybody's a pretty kitty. I'm a pretty kitty. Like, there are so many. Whenever that filter pops up on Snapchat, I make use of it. Sometimes I don't even post it. I just take funny pictures and save them and send them as reaction. I like to make my own reactions to stuff because
it does.
I think, you know, I very much type the way I talk. So if you don't like me on video, you will not like me via text message.
Yeah.
And Cody's like, yeah.
And then one of the last ones that we'll show you this week, I don't even know what we were talking about, but I think I just came across it and sent it to Matt. And this is literally me, for sure, totally me. And I think Matt agrees. When you're on a roller coaster, but you know the camera is coming. So sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm scared of this roller coaster. And I'd be the one on the left. But then I know a camera's coming. Nope, right.
Yeah, I've seen so many pictures of you at theme parks, and you are always poised and posed. And I'm like, amazing.
This also is my thing, like the not ready, but ready. Like when I was doing TV, I could be like talking or like flustered, and then the camera's on. I'm like, okay, welcome back. Matt knows this too, because like I'll just be like doing something, and then when it's time to go, I'm like, hello and welcome.
No,
But
you
then
don't do
throws
it like
Matt
that.
off.
You amp it up to like 25 out of 10,
Dude.
and that's why I start laughing. I'm very used to just kind of turning it on, but like it's just you go 0 to 150, and it kills me every time. It's not the change of pace. It's that you don't talk to me that way. So
No, because I'll be
laugh.
like, okay, Matt, yeah. Oh wow, that really happened. And welcome to the Coma Cast.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not on the other side of this, completely part of the show. I'm like, I'm not off stage. I'm watching you. Like I'm in conversation with you. Because, work and personal do blur. So it is rare for Cody and I. I think there was a couple days where we were like, okay, we are not talking about work. And I told him that when we hang out, I was like, we need to set aside a couple days for us to like do stuff together and hang out where we just get to be Cody and Matt and take normal pictures and record normal things, not work related. Even though what you guys see is a lot of what we would talk about, it's different, it's like I'm sitting in a room sweating right now, and that and also because my office is closed.
Yeah, thankfully I am not sweating. It's cooled down a little this evening, but
my office usually does get warmer if the door was open, I'd probably be fine. But I was wearing jeans earlier because I had to go to the eye doctor, so I didn't know if it was gonna be cold in the office. And you never know if you're gonna be waiting 2 minutes or 20 or 40 minutes. And
Matt, everybody, Matt did not. His vaccine did not give him any superpowers.
No mutations. There was I'm nearsighted and farsighted, one in each eye. Like it's way off. But there's one thing where you put your chin on a machine, and they kind of do it's like a preliminary test. And there's a field and a barn. And when you first put your chin on it, like my left eye, it's far away and I can see it. But my right eye, when they put it on there, all I saw was like a green wall. And she's like, "Oh, I see."
Goodness, we talked about it a few weeks ago. I went for the first time, so we both are good.
I have trial contacts in now. They did have a set that fit my vision, thankfully. So I popped those in. So I've got a set. I can't remember if I ordered them. I thought I did. Yeah, I think I ordered them. And but we picked out some frames. So we went to this website where you pick out a bunch to try on. So David got a new prescription today too. And I did not have my eyes dilated because it's supposed to last 4 to 8 hours. For me, it lasts like 12. It like ruins my whole night. Now it has gotten better since I gotten older, but as a teenager, I get my eyes dilated. My day was screwed.
I've never had my eyes dilated.
Oh, it doesn't. It's neat. It doesn't bother me. It's more so functionality. Like I need to.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't go to an eye appointment. I think I was 17, and my grandparents, I was able to drive and everything, and they're like, "We'll go." And I'm like, "I need my eyes dilated this time. I can't drive home like that." They're like, "You're gonna just have to get used to driving in uncomfortable conditions." And I'm like, "You guys are the ones who told me I'm literally stupid and not able to drive, but you're going to tell me I need to learn to drive with my eyes dilated when I don't need to."
Wow,
this is not an emergency situation. Yeah. If it's an emergency, of course, you're going to do what you have to do and make a decision and make that decision. This was not a situation. This was a completely controlled, like, hey, is anybody available? And they were madder than holy hell. I'm like, I'm really sorry that I'm an inconvenience in being responsible. Deal with it. Walk it off, Grandma.
It's on the board. It's on the board.
So my grandma that I reference is my step grandmother, and she is only about 2 years older than my mom. My mom was a little older when she had me. Not old, but like in her late 20s when I was actually born. And so my step-grandma was very with technology and everything growing up. So I didn't have a lot of sympathy for certain things that they had to do because I'm just like, well, I'm really sorry. I'm still a minor. Deal with it. Oh, no. Poor you. The kid that doesn't sneak out, who goes to church like 4 days a week, plays like everything I did was at one location at the place they worked, which I like to point out, they were atheists. So, and I was not at the time. Yeah. So this was not a situation where I was being ran all over town and doing whatever. Everything was within 20 minutes or less of us, which 20 minutes is a long drive when you have to go and drop somebody off. But I remember getting the phrase, "Oh, you don't need to do it. There's always next weekend." If it involved them having to take me there once I got like past 15, 16. And I was like, but there's not always next weekend. Like, I was aware I only had like 8, 9 years of living memory with like 6 or 7 of living memory with my parents and 7 or 8 with my grandparents. There is not always next weekend. That next weekend came and went. Next weekend, I'm now 35. Like, whoa. And it's just like, oh, interesting. Which, by the way, that grandmother is still alive and did not call me on my birthday. And does not know I wrote a book, does not know about the podcast, does not know I quit my job 2 years ago. And
does not know a lot.
No, there is some missing gaps.
Eyewitness News, where news comes first.
The Supreme Court is sparing Obamacare from a GOP challenge. Now, 2 of Trump's 3 appointees, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, have joined the majority opinion on this, while the third, Neil Gorsuch, dissented. They ruled that the Affordable Care Act remains valid, rejecting a claim by a group of conservative states that a recent change to the law made it unconstitutional. So that is great news. Obviously, the Affordable Care Act has been really torn down a lot to what it ultimately is now, but at least what is there remains, because it does help people. And it goes to my point that I said the other day, talking about the Supreme Court justices. Just because you can vet them and look at their back history doesn't mean that sometimes they're going to go against what you think they're going to do. So surprisingly, Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett sided with the majority on that case. And again, both of those were Trump appointees. So I'm sure that he is not very happy right now about that. But great news for everybody who is using the Affordable Care Act. Now, we always also talk on the podcast about, it seems, it comes up a lot. And I know many of you, hopefully, who are watching here, we've talked about it as far as marijuana and legalization of marijuana and being able to use it. But then there's the issues of being drug tested. In this case, it's not going to help the drug testing issues at your workplace, but Connecticut lawmakers have given the final okay to marijuana legalization. Possession, all of that's going to be legal starting on July 1st. So coming up soon, you can have it in Connecticut. Retail sales are targeted to start in May of 2022. So it's going to allow anyone who's over 21 to possess up to 1.5 ounces. You can keep it locked away at home or in a vehicle glove box or your trunk. So that's exciting news. I'm a proponent of marijuana legalization.
Everybody should be.
It's helpful.
Do you know a lot of people are like really surprised? I get asked a lot. They're like, is it? I'm like, it's never been my thing, and I don't need it, but I don't understand why it wouldn't be legal. Like,
yeah,
like why? I mean, unless you've done something, because like driving under the influence is still illegal. If you get pulled over or you have a car accident because you were high and or drunk, you're still in trouble. But why?
Yeah, I hate that argument.
Why are you being punished for being home? Like I remember my grandfather, his logic for it, he's like, literally all I want to do when I'm high is just like eat candy bars and listen to the radio. Like that was his thing. That's what he told me. And I was like, so what's the big deal? And this is me at 12. I was like, then what's the problem? He's like, people are stupid.
Yeah, I feel like if you end up smoking and you get high, you've kind of planned for that to happen, and you're going to be at home and you're going to be eating, you're going to be watching something or playing games or just zoning out, listening to music. I feel like there's fewer people that smoke and then want to drive as opposed to alcohol, which is a huge issue. So yeah, legalize it. Come on, people.
Let the ceremonies begin.
Here's the thing, everybody. Matt surprised everybody last week with his Olympic knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Your face, priceless.
And so we are going to start a little new segment, and then we're also going to do some special things coming up because the Olympics is happening, Tokyo Olympics. If everything continues, I don't want to say it's going to happen. It could be canceled because of COVID, but right now it is happening. And so we're going to do like some Olympic news. We're going to get into 2 gymnast things, but real quick, we want to do an update because Naomi Osaka just today on Thursday actually has said that she will not be playing at Wimbledon this year, but she does hope to return in time for the Tokyo Olympics. Of course, that's like in 4 or 5 weeks. But so she has dropped out of Wimbledon and will return for the Tokyo Olympics. But Matt, we have Lori Hernandez. She's not going to make it.
Yeah, she's not going to trials. She suffered an injury, I believe, during I think it was in warm-ups.
Yeah, I believe so.
Of classics. And so unfortunately she had decided to scratch the meet and not continue, which we're super sad about. So the Old British native, who became one of the breakout stars of the 2016 Rio Olympics team, will miss the 2021 U.S. Olympic trials later this month, and effectively ending her dreams of representing Team USA a second time in Tokyo. Hernandez, who earned team gold and balance beam silver in Rio, withdrew from U.S. nationals after injuring her left knee during warm-ups before the second day of competition. She'd returned to competition this year after a 4.5-year break following Rio. So it was really sad because her, and also, can we talk about Chelsea Memel making a reappearance after 9 years?
That's tough to come back from. Not,
she is 31 or 32 now. She is not the oldest competitor. If we also know, Cody's like, how the fuck do you know this? I believe it's Chusavitnia is her name. She has competed in like 12 Olympics. She's in her 40s. She still does all around events. She has also had a child. I think Chelsea Memel has had 2 children, and this started as a whole thing just to get back in shape. And then she dragged her father and came out of retirement, who was her former coach, and this is what she was doing during the pandemic. So, and then it was Nastia Liukin commenting, and they're former teammates. They were Olympic teammates. So it's just like, can you imagine how weird that would be, being in, 5 or 10 years past the point where most people of your group of people you trained with, grew up with, are, they're in different parts of their lives now. And then it's like, oh my gosh, you're doing this, you're doing the thing. That's just got to be a really weird feeling.
Yeah.
And Cody's like, how do you know this?
I'm not surprised anymore. You can't trick me now. I know that you know all this stuff, which I'm glad about, so we can talk about it, because I love the Olympics, and we learned last week that I love the Olympics, and it's something that's fun. That I actually get to talk to somebody.
Is they if you were listening to them, they repeat the same things for each gymnast over and over and over, and I think it also just stuck in my head. And we watch the news all the time, so of course, when the Magnificent Seven won, it was just everywhere. And so in '96, I was 10, and so I was just old enough, I think, to really understand what was going on, and I didn't know their names at the time, but I knew a couple of them, like Shannon Miller and Dominique Dawes, and at the time. And then of course now I've since learned all of them, because they're in if you watch anything about sports, they are iconic. Carrie Strug's famous one-legged vault, poor woman,
I feel like that
ligaments.
Yeah, that has stood the test of time as a lasting memory. We talked about last week also Simone Biles, and the crazy things she's doing. I mean, how does she even do it? I don't even know. But she has given some interviews recently, and this is probably going to be her final Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics. Now in February, Biles had hoped to crown her career with more Olympic golds last summer and then retire. But of course, things got postponed because of the pandemic. And of course, Tokyo Olympics now this July. She reluctantly decided to train, she said, for another year so that she could actually attend the Tokyo Olympics.
I just sat there and I was like, I really don't know how I'm going to do this. Another year out, I don't think it's possible for me at this point mentally.
Not physically, but mentally.
Pushing through those trainings when I had in my mind, in 3 months I'll be done. It's how do you push back for another year?
She may actually go for 2024. I was watching an interview that very likely, if she hasn't by then, that she would probably retire then, because she's still strong. She feels good. Now, obviously, she is a powerhouse. She's very strong. And what I think the best part is she's so, the way she carries herself and presents herself as strong, caring, humble, powerful, and you can be proud of yourself without being a jerk, and she knows she's good. She puts in those hours, and, watching her is just and she's done so much for the sport. And she is not afraid to criticize either and call out when she sees the problems. And I'm glad that that she continues to criticize, because seeing one of the best gymnasts, literally, I think of all time. At this point, she is the best female gymnast of all time, best gymnast of all time. And not to mention a host of every other award you can possibly think of, because I think she's officially the most decorated gymnast of all time by like 7 miles. So you have somebody you have a Black woman who is strong and powerful and not afraid to call out the injustices she sees while still competing at the highest level and keeping herself in peak condition. And she's a beast. I love that all her Leos had like goat on it, and I thought that was pretty great.
That was great.
I was like, damn.
She did a pretty good interview on 60 Minutes, so you can check that out, where she talks about a lot of stuff, Olympics and life. It's a great interview to check out. But Matt, it's now time. We want to talk about Dr. Jake.
Yes. So Dr. Jake, as you guys know, right now he is sponsoring our podcast, our live show, actually, our semi-live show. And still comment and also reach out to Dr. Jake if you have questions. He provides telehealth services, concierge healthcare in the Denver area. And if you have questions, of course, you can find him on Twitter at Mobile Healthcare D. And Cody will put the handle up here, and we'll tag it in when we post it to Twitter. And so what you guys can do is, he even works in doing hormone replacement. He can come to your work, he can come to your home, and you can do appointments online. He works with you for your labs, and this includes things like if you need testosterone, sexual health, PrEP, things like that. These are things that working with the LGBT community. He is a gay man, and getting to work with an LGBT provider is amazing, because a lot of us face, as Dr. Jake puts it, some pretty shady behavior sometimes from medical professionals, people that we should be able to sit down and talk. If they ask us questions about our sexual health and practices or things that we're doing, we should be able to be honest with them to make sure that we are taking the best care of ourselves possible, not getting judged. And that's exactly what Dr. Jake is trying to promote, is a judgment-free zone where you're comfortable talking to him, and he's helpful. He's working to make a plan with you no matter what. He's not there to kink shame or life shame. He's there to support and work with you. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to him. He's amazing and wonderful, and he has been a friend of mine for like 12 years. So we're super excited to be able to work with another LGBTQ person in the community. And that is our goal with the podcast, is anybody that we work with, if at all possible, they are always part of our community, so we can uplift and work with each other. So,
yes.
Cody? What has the internet buzzing?
Well, there are some things, Matt, that has the internet buzzing. And one of those is the winner of the Westminster Dog Show for 2021 was Wasabi, the Pekingese. And, well, he's a fluffy little guy.
He is. What?
At the 145th Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, this 3-in-1 mop Roomba system got best in show. He beat all the other dogs. If there's one thing that we've learned from the movies about dogs winning big sports championships, it's that the dog has to actually, in fact, be a dog and not like a pumpkin made of wigs or whatever that was. He was cute, though. But I can't believe he won best in show. But I could never judge those shows, because I would always want like certain dogs to win.
Because
like
they're all of them are good boys and girls.
Well, that is true. I would take them all. It's not like I wouldn't take them all.
Right.
You know, I would collect every animal. Justin sent me this video. I should have made it as one of the videos, but I don't think it was trending. But it was this like a storm grate, but not like a deep tunnel, but just like a little small grate. And the person put their phone down in through one of the slits of the grate. And you saw like 8 or 9 kittens, and they started running towards the phone. I was like, oh my God, I would catch them all and keep them.
yeah, rescue those little babies. I am terrified. I think David like lives in fear of me like fighting and rescuing a kitten. We had walked into a McDonald's a couple years ago, and there's this little gray kitten. We caught it, like we saw it literally as we were like getting inside, And David's like, if that thing is there when we walk out of here, I'm taking it. And this kitten was maybe fit in the palm of my hand. Like, this was a tiny kitten. Like, this thing needed its mommy. And, unfortunately, a lot of times kittens get separated.
Mm-hmm.
They get out of the litter, out of their little dens, or, sometimes the people, like in our case, someone took Luna and her siblings, put them in a box and left them by the side of the road. And luckily a neighbor saw them, or they would have been bird food, because we do live in an area with hawks.
Yeah.
Red-tailed hawks.
So this next one, little kittens have to worry about those hawks, but some of these wild animals, especially like in California, pretty much anywhere, we have all these freeways and highways now that have gone through the middle of their habitat, and now it's like they're stuck on one side. I know it happens a lot here in California, where like these highways just go through this wild habitats, but this one I thought was so great. So it's a coyote and a badger. They're using a culvert as a wildlife crossing to pass under the busy highway. And now you can see the coyote's like waiting for his little badger friend to come before he takes off.
This is like the cutest shit.
It's going to replay again, but you'll see he's like, come on. And the badger's coming, and he waits. And he's like, okay, let's go. We're going this way. I love it. I love all this like different species of wildlife becoming friends, and then they're just like, they just love each other, and they're like, let's go play. Let's go be safe. It's so cute. But I'm so glad that there's a lot of places that now starting to create these wildlife crossings so that the animals continue to go from habitat to habitat without being hit by vehicles, because it does happen a lot. And so it's one of the great things that we always should have been doing, but at least we're doing it now, I guess.
Time now for your update.
Is that the Supreme Court unanimously sided with that Catholic adoption agency that turned away same-sex couples. We mentioned that in the podcast on Thursday as one of the big headlines that could be happening, and they finally did come down with that. And this was Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the 6 members of the court, said that the Philadelphia violated the First Amendment free exercise clause by rebuffing the Catholic Social Service Agency. Now, all 9 justices agreed with that judgment. Several did write separate concurring opinions. A lower federal appeals court had ruled against the agency, finding that Philadelphia had acted lawfully by enforcing its non-discrimination policies. The Supreme Court's ruling, though, reversed the lower court. Roberts, in his opinion, wrote that the city had placed an unlawful burden on the Catholic agency. Now, although the ruling was a victory for religious right advocates, the court stopped short of fundamentally reshaping its approach to religious liberty disputes, to the chagrin of the court's most steadfast conservatives. So yeah, it'll be something to look at, like you said. But again, in this case, I honestly, it was a little surprising that it was everybody on the court, or he was at least writing for 6 members of the court, which is an interesting.
Right. And although they did side with the Catholic Charity on the adoption, there is someone, I was reading an interesting thought process on Twitter. It's like, remember, the Supreme Court does not write legislation. They interpret it, and they respond to the challenges that are brought before them. So as this person pointed out, write new local legislation, write your legislators. Like, so this is not a, that is not a be-all, end-all decision. Yes, they could pose other challenges and open the doors for people to challenge other places. That doesn't mean that coming down from the top, they're saying gays can't adopt. We need to remember that there's a lot. Yes, that is a very conservative majority we have on the court right now. But they did not come down and say gays can't adopt, and they're not going to. What they mean is this particular charity won the right to choose, if they want, to not certify LGBTQ people as foster parents. So that now, not every adoption center is religious based. So it does not cut off all our options, and religion should not be involved in the process of adopting a freaking child. Like, this is ridiculous. But outside of that, just remember, get involved in local legislation, city and state and town, like different. Nothing is standardized, really. I mean, so on the other side of that, there's other challenges on both sides that can still happen. This was not a hammer down on us. It was, yes, we would like to have been slapped because religious freedom is absolute crap. If you can bring something to the Supreme Court, you can pay taxes.
Yeah.
If you're using religion to interpret law, I think you should have to pay taxes because you're getting representation without taxation.
You gotta love this.
So it's time to say what we're loving. Matt, you know what I'm loving?
What?
I'm loving your book.
Really? Are you reading it?
I'm reading it. I'm not going to give any information out yet because I'm going to give a full review soon. But everybody, Matt's book is out. Go buy his book. It's going to be, again, in the comments. We'll put it in the comments, put it in the links. But his book is out. I'd recommend everybody going to buy his book. He's not yet done so. But that is what I'm loving this week. I know it's surprising because I do a TV show or I do a movie usually. But this week it's a book. It's my first book ever of something that I'm loving. So Matt,
I'm very touched because I know you. I mean, I really do know you don't enjoy reading, so I really was not going to ask you to read it because you don't like reading. Why would I ask somebody to do something they don't want to do? Let alone the person I work with like a lot of hours every week. I don't need you upset with me for that. There's plenty of other things I can do to piss you off. I don't need to hand you a book.
I did tell Justin about David's comment.
So David's review was hysterical. One of David's former classmates, who's a friend of ours, she recently bought the book. She bought it as well. I was also thanked her for it, but she saw David's review and laughed too. We've all been laughing about it. He's like, "What?" So if you have read my book, please leave a review because I don't do advertising. Like I talk about it sparingly on Twitter because I don't want to piss everybody off. I want everybody to enjoy the ride. And I know the algorithm doesn't really show everybody's tweets. So some people just may not know about it. But I also don't want to like cram it down everybody's throats because it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a fun ride. So I hope y'all enjoy it. If you do, please rate and review after you've read it. If you've read it, I am happy to sit and answer questions and talk about it. I plan to be super approachable because I have no reason not to be because I am definitely not some like well-known author. I have time. So I really appreciate it that you read it. Hope you're liking it. Another mutual texted me the other day and was telling me roughly where he's at. And I was like, it's so weird to get text messages with people saying terms, names, and locations and things that have been in my head or personally in my laptop for, a year and a half, 2 years. By the way, my actual writing time was probably 6 months or less just between the season 1 and 2 of the podcast, the pandemic, and school. I did have school and up until January. And yeah, it was just kind of like, you kind of grab each project as you can and do as much as you can, have to set it aside. Because in the meantime, I have still been building the family tree, doing all this other stuff. And yet I have time, but no time. So all my time is structured how I want to, but I have to dedicate like, okay, this is for this. And sometimes I learned really quick with writing that sometimes you sit down even with good ideas and you literally just don't feel like typing anymore. Because I am tired of being in front of my laptop after, we've done research, recorded, prepped, been at my desk for hours, doing whatever else I have to do for school, plus anything I have to look up, anything that's for anything else I even just want to look up. And then it's like, oh, you need to write still. And I'm like, and you don't want to write when you're in a bad mood because it is something that brings me a lot of joy. So I don't want to do it when I'm upset. Sometimes it does help, but I got new contacts. I've been out of contacts for like 8 months. Fresh ones. These are fresh ones. So I'm hoping that makes my life writing a lot easier because I'm not having to squint. And I notice even now I'm not squinting and it feels so much better.
Yay. That's so good.
And what has me talking? Probably I am, like I said, I think the other day, I'm sitting right around 10,000 words into the sequel. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen. I have bullet points, but it's more of different ideas that I'm not necessarily sure I'll put in because I want to enjoy the ride too. So sometimes I'm kind of just a surprise. I just sort of let it unfold, like, because I hate when I'm reading a book and something happens, or like you're watching a TV show and something happens and a character does something that's totally out of character for them. And yeah, we all make decisions that are not normal to ourselves when something prompts us to do that. Whether you snap, you're stressed, you're angry, you're hurt, you're really excited, or just, miss something. But when there's no explanation to when a character does something that triggers a major event or solves a major problem, and it's like, so you got that lucky every single time? No, I don't buy that. And sure, I mean, I understand everybody's different, but since it's my book, how far into it are you, Cody?
Probably a quarter of the way.
How do you so you haven't like raged through it yet, been like, these fucking books and their words and their pages and shit, and like
what is this? This
mess? There's not a recipe in here. He lied. He said there was a pumpkin roll recipe in here.
Whoa.
Did you do that?
No.
I think I'm being called to Jesus. Well, bye guys.
Well, I don't know what that is, everybody.
That was so weird.
Magic.
It was my camera.
Wow. I was like, oh my gosh, the world. Matt's an angel, everybody. Yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. Hopefully this coming week I'll have the review out for everybody, and maybe we'll have it on the show on Friday. But yeah. With that, everybody, we thank you for joining us for this semi-live show. So we may have to be doing some of these more in the future because the summer is here. And yeah. I'm going to be like living my hot girl summer, everybody. But yeah, so we thank you for joining us for this semi-live thing. We've enjoyed chatting with you. And thank you for being here as always for another episode of Live with Cody and Matt. It's been great. But we hope all of you have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is